you're hurting other people around you. It's time to make a change. Sometimes it can affect you financially or even your health. Like if you're doing things in unhealthy amounts, it's going to affect you eventually, and your health is going to go out the window.
That's very true.
So that's hopefully hopefully you don't have to get to that point to wake up and realize you need to change.
Something I heard just then, you said as far as not feeling like you were hurting yourself, but realizing that you were hurting your children by not. Sometimes we don't pay attention to the fact that us trying to avoid putting our trauma on others is causing them more trauma than just being honest and open about our traumas.
I do
That's
like
good.
that, though. Being open about where you're at and what that looks like.
Yeah.
I love that.
Trying to hide it is actually doing more damage. Yeah,
Right.
That's good.
Absolutely.
So what are the 12 steps to recovery? Y'all have heard of AA, and there's a Christian group called Celebrate Recovery, and they go through like 12 different steps. How do you get healed from your trauma and pain and get rid of all these negative behaviors? So we just going to go through those 12 steps and help people out there realize, okay, maybe there is help for me and I need to look into what this is all about. And so we'll just go through each one, and if you think you can explain what that might look like for you or in general, just give us your insight. So the first step is we admit we are powerless over our compulsive behavior and our lives have become unmanageable. So what does that look like, or anyone want to share on that?
We admit that we have history lessons. We admit that our bodies, that our minds have learned things that are not good behaviors that we now need to figure out how to overcome.
Yeah. Yeah, just
It's hard.
acknowledging it.
Hard to get to that point.
Yeah.
It's so much easier than when you have a word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that has made the biggest difference for us, is having something to put a name to it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And that takes a lot of time. You know, a lot of people don't know that face to their demon until they've worked really hard. And sometimes there's multiple demons to that face, you know? So that is really hard. But I agree. I think it's just admitting and realizing that you even have a problem, and it takes a lot to get there. Because some of our things can be very manageable. You know, we were talking about this today. It's how, like, you can take something and say, okay, I have control over it and I'm fine and I don't need help there because I'm good. I'm controlling it, even though you know that to a degree you're out of control. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Just got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think for the longest time I was in denial because I didn't want to admit that I made these mistakes because I thought that means I'm a bad person. And I didn't understand why I was doing these things. I was just like hating myself for doing them. And somebody just opened my eyes. They said, you know why you're doing that? That's a trauma response. And it just clicked in me like, oh, I'm not a bad person. I've just been through bad stuff. And I'm not choosing these things. Like, it's just the way I'm coping. And that's actually a good thing that you're learning to cope and you're making it through and you're surviving. But let's make better choices from here on out. And it was just like, set me free. Like, I'm not ashamed of my past anymore. Like, I can be free and admit I need help. It was an awesome experience to finally get to that point.
yeah, it's very freeing. As much as it's scary.
Yeah.
And it can be, and it will feel that way at first. Like,
Yeah.
don't let me even, you know, it's not a joke. Like, and it's, I don't know, I think people almost don't do it because it's that way, you know, but don't think that it's going to be this open door where come on in, it's going to be fun and comfortable. No, it's not, but it can't be. It can be to a degree, but not always.
Yeah, healing's a long process, but that first step is the scariest, but it's most important and it's the most beneficial.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyone else have something to say on number 1? All right, so number 2, you come to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore you to sanity. What does that mean? Are we all crazy? What is that sanity? Tell us.
Insanity. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Sanity has to be finding the result that happened or needed to happen.
Right?
Or adjusting so that we can find the solution we're looking for and not what we're getting over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah, stepping outside of that day to day that
So
we do.
what's the importance of like coming outside of ourselves to our greater power or higher power? A power greater than ourselves can help us. Why does that have to happen?
I think it's admitting that you can't do it on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it does take other than yourself
Right.
to make the changes.
Right.
Right.
So you, number 3, make a decision to turn your will and your life over to care of God as you understand Him. So everyone has a different higher power, a different maybe religion or spirituality that they look to. And this show is all about diversity and accepting one another differences. But yeah, that's a big key. Like, you have to turn it over. You have to let it go and realize, I can't change this myself. My willpower is not strong enough. I have to have God's power to do it.
Yes.
Anyone else have anything on that?
Even if you're not, I have several friends that have like no spiritual interest whatsoever, but even they would say that the biggest part of that for them wouldn't be so much searching for God or for a higher power, but just realizing that sometimes you need more. And even if your higher power is just your other people and not somebody or something that has control or ability over you or that you can rely on all the time, just knowing that we are all part of a bigger picture.
Right.
And that it doesn't necessarily have to be a spiritual thing. Just remembering that you are a small portion of this big picture. So the prettier the picture, the better health we all need to be in.
Right.
I like that.
I do
It's
too.
like a perspective change. Like, you're looking at one piece of the puzzle, but when you step outside of it, you realize, okay, wait, if we all do our part.
One of my
comes
primary quotes that I use a lot is perception is everything. Because we can all deal with the same traumas, the same issues, but we're all going to handle them differently because of our backgrounds, because of our personalities. So even though we may see the same thing, we're going to perceive it differently, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I like that.
I do too.
Just coming outside of yourself, stepping back and having a different perspective. That's good. All right, so then the next one is, we make a searching, fearless moral inventory of ourselves. What does that mean? Anyone have experience with that? Anyone?
Maybe a little.
Tell us what that means, Christy.
I think it's really searching your history, understanding where you've been hurt, and starting there, and making a honest look at where you've been hurt in your life. And I think then understanding from that hurt, what emotions that those hurts elicited in you. And then going from there and understanding how that changed or may have set a belief system within yourself of, maybe I'm not good enough, or I'm unlovable, or whatever that looks like. But it can set your mind to believe certain things that may or may not be true.
Yeah.
Right? An inventory can be positive and negative, right? It can be good things. Good things have happened in your life as well. So it's understanding the good emotions that you had with those good situations and the belief systems that you got from those good things. But it's all about tying those things together and then understanding you have these belief systems. Well, what does that make your actions in your life now? What actions do you have as a result of those belief systems?
Exactly.
And learning from that. It's a learning process, really. It's a reflective look at your past and trying to learn and understand how you can use that information to make good changes and decisions and choices in your life.
Perfect explanation. That's
Love
good.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so once we do that, once we look at our life and honestly say, here's what's happened, here's what I did wrong. I think that's so important, because you can't heal from a loss until you admit you even had a loss, because we can be in so much denial.
Yeah.
And you have to process that loss. You have to express your feelings about it in order to grieve it. And I think a lot of times my coping mechanism was toxic positivity, super spirituality, where it was just like, everything's perfect, God is good. And I would not admit my husband died at 30, and that freaking sucked and hurt, and I wasn't allowed to say it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to cry, and they said, you can't cry, you have to be strong and have faith. And that was toxic positivity and denial, and it was damaging. So you have to identify, this is what happened, this is how it made me feel. Then you can start to heal from it. But until you say those words out loud, you're going to be stuck.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's what the inventory is. What's the next one? Someone read it. Admitted.
Admitted to God and to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs.
Yeah, pretty
think-
self-explanatory.
Yeah, I think it's the same as just doing an inventory, just being open with that
I think the inventory is with ourselves, and that is more after you've done the inventory, admitting and expressing to somebody else what that inventory is, so that you are not the only one taking account. You have a second person helping you take account without necessarily them having to go through an inventory for you. They're just there to that you can talk to them and bounce back and forth so that they can help you keep an account.
Right. I think it's somebody to help process, a safe person to process
Right.
with. And you got to make sure that person is safe. I wouldn't just tell your willy-nilly to anyone, you know?
right.
You need to find that person that you, can essentially would be like, I trust you, that if this were to fail, you wouldn't open your mouth about my
Yes.
stuff. That's how I feel about it, you know? I don't know. I did an inventory today, and it was that way, you know? Just really getting down and looking at those things that I'm going through and that I've been through, and that was really healing, to be honest with you. It's healing to know that even through those really bad things that we decide to do that we're confused about, like, you know, and have had to go through and didn't realize that those were things that we adapted to because that's what we were taught was okay or whatever, that it's not, and that it's okay, like you said, to feel that emotion and really work through it. And if you cry, you cry. If you get angry, you get angry, you know, but feel it, sit with it, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
I know, like, when I started going to therapy, it was so relieving just to be able to say everything that happened to me and someone just listen and agree. Like, that sounds terrible. Like,
Yeah.
I know, right? Like, it was very validating. Like, thank you. Someone heard me and agreed that this was unfair.
Yeah.
And just
Right.
that moment was very healing, just
Yeah.
to be heard and seen and finally have a voice. Because a lot of my childhood, I felt like nobody heard me. I didn't have importance. I didn't have value.
Yeah.
And just the fact that somebody listened and said, wow, that hurt, and gave me the permission to
Yeah.
be hurt,
Like,
because
I
I wasn't
believe you.
allowed to have emotions or pain or be
Right.
comforted.
Yeah.
And it was very comforting just to be heard.
Absolutely. It's huge.
So that's a huge part of the inventory and sharing with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next one?
You want me to read it again?
Yeah.
Uh,
Have God remove, entirely ready to have God remove all of our defects of character.
I love
Why
this
is that
step.
important?
I love this step.
What is it?
I just love that that he that we get to go into that place and that we get to bring our shortcomings there and our defects and what it is and learn about those things. I'm somebody who likes to research a lot of things, and I like to obtain information about how my body works and what's best going to make it run, you know, like maintaining a car. And I just love this, that I can bring those defects. Really are all they are is, I guess, the things that we go inward and we act like and we do, and that it's not healthy. It's just an unhealthy coping mechanism, really, is what it is, to go in there. At least that's what I would say. She's more the trauma.
And the belief systems
That's right,
that
yeah.
you've developed that are not
Not true.
true.
Totally, like
The
I said
lies
earlier.
that you're telling yourself.
Right.
that
Yes.
you are coming to learn that those are not true.
Yeah, exactly.
They are
And it's
lies.
freeing. It's freeing to know that you're not guilty of that that's not, it had nothing to do with you, that you were just there and you were a bystander of the whole thing. And that's what really freed me today, in my personal opinion, is by saying that I had this problem, this is what I felt, I was confused, I didn't understand, and that really the honest truth of it is there might not be an answer right now to that specific thing, and that's okay. And that's freeing in itself, that you don't have to figure that all out right now, but just to know and to do better every single day when you wake up and have that decision to say, okay, this is my defect, and I can bring that to myself and to my higher power. We know who he is for me. And to say, this is what I want and this is what I desire, but also what is your will and what is your desire for me, and help me to be that every day when I wake up, whether that's I want to be a better parent or a better partner or a better friend or a better worker, or I want to be more manageable in my time and what I'm doing in this life. I think it's huge, really. I think this step is, to me, the most important step, is realizing that there is freedom in your pain. There's freedom, and feeling that way, and then coming out and saying of that therapy session and being like, wow, like I learned something about myself, and now I can go home and work on that character defect without feeling like it's the end of the world and I'm this worst person and I need to go and sit in a corner and cry because this happened to me. No, that's not true. You can stand up there and be proud of the things that you've walked through. I actually have a shirt that says, these are my scars, and I'm proud of my scars, and I am they.
Aw.
And it's like to say that I'm good with my battle wounds. I'm okay with where I've came from. I'm all right that happened. But it doesn't define who I am. Yeah. I'm not that person, you know. And I love the rest. I'm a child of God, and I'm okay with that, you know. And He loves me, so
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I think it's so important to step, like, humbly asking Him to remove our shortcomings. It's like we can say all we want. I want to change this behavior, but until we let Him uproot it, like, we can just go and try. I've tried so many times to quit my habits, on my own strength, and it was just like cutting off the top of the dandelions. Like, I don't like these weeds in my life. I'm going to cut the tops off. Oh, there, that looks nice. But they keep popping back up. And I could not stop it in my own strength. And the problem was you need to let the Creator reach down and rip that root out of your heart and get to the root cause of the outward behavior. And gardening takes a process, and the gardener has to do it.
Yeah.
It can't be you. You know, you're just a little seed.
Yeah.
So that's the picture I got this week that I've been doing my research and thinking about this, is like, I'm a garden, and I can't just cover up the wounds anymore with Band-Aids. I have to get down deep and let the healing be from my healer.
Yes, yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
This step is all about saying, okay, God, I'm ready to let you heal me.
Yeah. It's not in our own strength.
I've identified it all. I know I know why I think the way I think. I'm ready for you to heal me. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's awesome.
And even if you don't believe in that, like, if that's not who you are, I am, that doesn't mean you have to be.
Yeah.
But it's just about, like, knowing, and like Grady said, just knowing that there's that hope out there that things are going to get better. They're going to change. And if you do the work and you stand in and you have, because regardless of what you think, it's in there. It's in there. And so that gets fueled by saying, okay, I'm worthy. Okay, I'm chosen. Okay, I'm this. Because when you think those things and you tell your mind and your body and all those things that are keeping you in that sickness, which is your emotions, then you start to break those chains little by little. And they just like kind of sweep off. And you're like, man, I feel lighter. I lost 20 pounds yesterday, you know? It's crazy. So I'm just saying that because I know that can be forcey and that can be pushy for people that are like, and they're not there yet. But I just, as that kind of person, I want you to know that no matter how you come, it's just that you get there and that you really, like, just open yourself up to that pain and not be so hard. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to be so strong all the time. And that's okay, because even the most perfect person in the world cried. The perfect person in the world, he was angry and he had emotions and he let them flee out, but he just didn't let other people define how that happened from there on, you know? Oh, did they see me crying? Oh, did they see me get mad? Who cares? Feel it. Just be in your bounds. Don't overstep and make it a big deal, you know, because then you go into those other belief systems like, I'm not good enough because now I'm this parent that overdoes or over hovers or gets mad all the time or tells my kids they're not enough or that they're constantly doing something wrong or just anything. Partner, you know. I won't forget that, by the way.
So good.
I love that. I'm taking that home to my husband. I'll just say, all right, here's a history lesson. We're about to go right now.
That has made life so much easier. Much easier.
Yes,
and
I love it.
it's not just making an excuse. Well, I'm the way that I am because this happened to me. You have to deal with it.
Yes.
No.
Right.
This is understanding me and my triggers so we can get better. I love it.
And when we throw history lesson, it's not just the words. We are doing the work trying to figure out why.
Right.
Because once we realize that it is a history lesson, then the question is, why?
Yeah.
What is this? What is it that I'm feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. It's so good to be there. I think that's even easier than just saying this is what it is. Let's move on. You know, we're sitting with it. So I like it.
Yeah. And I like that. We're going to jump into kind of like forgiveness and what that means and looks like. So we're supposed to make a list. The next step's make a list of persons that we've harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. And make amends to those people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure ourselves or others. So what does that look like? Making amends, asking forgiveness, giving forgiveness. What do you think?
Contacting, like I have 3 grown children, 2 of which are not speaking to me right now, which is very difficult. One has been in the Navy for 5 years, so he's kind of on his, I'm a big Navy boy, I don't need my mommy, which I totally get. And my younger one, she's in college, she's doing her own thing. But if I had the opportunity to call them and say, hey, you know, I've realized that this might be why you're upset with me. Can we talk? But I have similar issues with my mother. where I know because of the type of person that she is, that until she does some work, I cannot call her and say, can we sit down and talk? Because that would just cause me more damage.
Yeah. I'm
That's a
with
good
you.
example, yeah.
Yeah.
As far as me, well, me and my mother, we have an on and off relationship because of a lot of my trauma stemmed from her. So, I mean, I have forgiven her, but it's just like, it's still a work in progress because it's still like stuff going on.
You can forgive somebody and still not want them to poison your life.
Yes, good.
Yeah,
I
I
love
love that.
everything she says. Preach.
Yeah.
So good.
I love the perspective.
I always tell my kids, because they have gone through some abusive situations, and I'm like, listen, you can love that person, but you don't have to let them be close to you again.
Right.
You can forgive them, but never let them back in your life.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
She's the hype woman as far as like if you have trauma with your mama. Okay. She's
You can
good.
follow me on TikTok.
She's good. Let me tell
Unbroken
you.
Life.
Because yeah.
I have a whole lifetime of trauma experience, so turn that
yeah.
around and help others. But anyways,
Yeah.
so like making amends, what do you think that looks like, or any thoughts on that?
So I think for me, it's been facing whoever I need to make amends with, saying, look, I'm recognizing that I have done something that I believe has harmed you, and saying I apologize for that, walking through what you did that you think harmed them, saying I apologize, I was in the wrong, and not expecting anything in return. I think that
Right.
that's a very key point to it, is they may choose to forgive you, they may not choose to forgive you, but you should have no expectations of that, one way or the other. That's a very key point to making amends.
Yeah.
It's good.
I agree with that.
Kind of the reminder that everybody has to do their own work.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a
That's
good
right.
point.
For sure. Well, and I think it's also like if you're having questions about like, because that was one of my questions today was if you have this situation and you feel like you need to make an amends, but you're not sure, like how would you go about that? And one thing that was told to me is if you're going to make an amends and it's going to be harmful to that person, to bring that up to them and not beneficial for the both of you, it's something that maybe you need to like step back and reconsider on how you, I don't know, am I saying that right? Like as far as like addressing that.
Yeah, that's a key point too. Is if there's a chance that it would be harmful to that person, then you would probably want to not go there for sure. But it might be something that you want to just be open to, because the time might come with that person where they may want to have that discussion with you on something, and then in that case it would be giving you the opportunity to make that amends and to again admit that you feel like you did something wrong.
Yeah.
But you might want to wait for them to come to you on it, because there could be some harm involved in that. And
Right.
so you just have to be sensitive to that. But I think the thing is, in the step, the key thing is to be willing.
Yeah.
And I took that as like there's certain people I can't contact because
Yeah.
I had a protective orders against them at one point, and I'm willing to admit I made mistakes in these relationships and I contributed to some of this abusive situation, but I'm not able to contact them because the abuse would continue.
Oh, absolutely.
So I wrote a letter and I didn't send it,
Yeah.
and that's me making amends, asking for forgiveness where I can, because it's for my
100%.
safety and my
Yeah.
children's.
And burn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I'm
we
in
can
the
make
same.
amends, we can give
Yeah.
forgiveness and grace, even if the person doesn't ask for it, doesn't want it. We can get
Yes.
that closure for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I love the letter idea.
Yeah,
It's
that's
good.
that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm in the same situation. There's somebody in my life that would just never be a safe person for me. So I agree.
And that sets us free. At
Yeah.
that point, I've forgiven you. It's in the past. I've repented. It's in the past. That's not who I am anymore.
Yeah.
And you can forgive yourself at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And even if that person holds a grudge till they die, that's between them and God. You forgave
Right.
yourself. You forgave them. You're good.
At least
Right.
you're at peace.
I've let
Yeah.
it go. I've let the weight go.
Yep.
You get to carry it as long as you want to carry
I
it,
love
but
that.
I'm not carrying it anymore.
I love that.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the next one? Where are we? Continue to take personal inventory. So like once you deal with all your crap, you don't want to pick it up again. So you got to make it a daily thing. Like, am I making good choices? Am I hurting people? How am I processing
Yeah.
things?
I think this is a really key one for my mom. because there is some things that she will do. She tends to like to make comments about my weight to me, and it's always hurtful. It's, and it's something that I have to continuously forgive every time she makes the comments, right? But I think something that I learned recently, she made a comment, I don't know, it's been about a month ago. She said, how are you doing on your diet? And I said, well, I've lost about 20 pounds. And she said, oh, just think of if you had kept off that 30 pounds that you lost before. Jeez. And I mean, it was just like, ouch, right? But I think that I responded almost immediately, and I said, Mom, that's not nice.
There you go.
And I just did it as a very, calm. I didn't get mad. I didn't fly off the handle or anything like that, or cry or anything. I just said, Mom, that's not nice. And she said, well, I just worry. I said, no, Mom, that's not nice.
That's huge.
That's so good.
Yeah.
For someone who doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
Exactly.
That's a boundary.
Exactly.
Love
and
it.
So I it immediately called to her attention that she was hurting me. And I think that was really a powerful step for me. But if I hadn't been doing that in my daily inventory when she had said things previously, I think I wouldn't have been able to have the same. It would have just kept building up.
So you kind of just start walking through life aware and more like, hey, wait, why is the person doing that? Wait, am I going to pick up offense or not? And you're just daily processing. And so you don't let years of trauma build up. You deal with it every single day.
Right.
And that reminds me, actually, when you shared about your mom and your triggers, I had to decide at a point, there's this person that keeps being in my life that's not the kindest. And I took it personal every single time and just ripped me apart every time. And I just decided, you know what? This is not my problem. This is their problem, their insecurities, and they keep putting it on me, and I keep picking it up. Yeah. And I'm like, I just decided one day, I'm not going to pick it up anymore. Yeah. And they continue to be the way they are. But because every day I'm processing things and choosing to set my boundaries and protect myself, it doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
And I realized I have the power to choose whether someone's words and actions affect me or not. And that set me free.
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
Huge.
Agreed. Yes.
So that's the daily inventory. What's next here? So through prayer and meditation, we improve our conscious contact with our higher power, and we understand him, praying for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. That's just self-explanatory. Anyone want to say anything about prayer, meditation, or how that helps your life?
Oh, so for the last few months, I've started walking in the morning, and it's been since it started getting hot here in Oklahoma. So I've been trying to get out before it gets too warm in the mornings, and so I've started this routine of I wake up and just immediately go out on my walk about half an hour before sunrise, and it puts me at my halfway point where there's a bench that I can sit on that's on this pond in my neighborhood, and I can watch the sunrise and just sit in solitude and silence and just process nature. And oh my goodness, the healing that's done for me, because I've been dealing with grief over losing a very dear friend of mine in May, and she was my walking buddy, so doing that in the morning, it's like sometimes I can feel her presence with me almost, and it's just been so healing and in a healthy way of grieving, that's been just so helpful to me. So
yeah, agreed.
I'm the same way with nature. Like I love to go out to the lake and just sitting on the water and just relaxing on it, everything. Usually there's so many voices going on, constant chaos in my emotions and thoughts, and all of a sudden everything just washes away when I'm sitting at the water. And that's my church. I say my church has no walls. It's out in nature. Like I can feel the presence of my Creator in his creation.
Yes.
And that's where I connect and feel closest and worship to him.
Right.
I think that's huge. I don't know if I want to share this, but I'm going to go ahead and share it. Recently, speaking of prayer and meditation, I've been really connecting with my Creator because all of a sudden I ripped those things off that I was not dealing with my pain, and all of a sudden I have to find something else to heal that pain. And so I'm going to God more and spending more time like intentionally listening for his voice and spending time like praying and worshiping. And all of a sudden, y'all, in my bathroom, just listening to some worship song, I just felt like a blanket of warmth fall over me. And like, whew.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, this was better than any drug. And I have done some drugs.
Yeah.
And